Our next poet is going to be Shane Lara. Shane Lara, artistically known as Walks Between Worlds, is a compelling voice in both the hip hop and poetry scenes. Hailing from the, you can correct me, okay, the Nachitoches? Natchitoches? The Natchitoches tribe of Louisiana. Shane has carved a unique space in the arts of Native American hip-hop artist, poet, and author. His groundbreaking achievements include becoming the first Indigenous Grand Slam poetry champion of Visalia in 2023, followed by a notable performance on the national stage where he ranked among the top 20 poets in the country. So yeah, everybody welcome Shane Lara.
All right, Kuhatesha Kambakiha Shane, which in my language means hello friends, my name is Shane. I like to introduce myself in my tribal language because my language is critically endangered and only 2 people speak it fluently today. So, you know, I always try to keep the language alive as well as try to keep the culture alive through poetry. And so I'm a hip hop artist. I started off rapping, but then I got into slam poetry like 2 years ago. And it was a blessing because I was able to travel to so many different places and compete. And so a lot of my poems talk about Native issues and, you know, my inner struggles and how it's all interconnected. So the first poem I want to read, it's called Who Shot Me? And it goes, I lived the life of a detribalized man gutted by broken treaties and steel borders. I soon learned that assimilation wasn't a suggestion, but an order. I find my broken language, my broken culture, my broken people that I try to repair, because for my people, the American dream became the American nightmare. The more I relearn, the more the past begins to shock me. I just listened to Biggie's Ready to Die album and started to wonder who shot me. Mom, the crisis of identity is messing with my head. Who shot me? Who filled me with lead? My elders tell me to breathe and be patient, but I've been riddled by more than one unknown assailant, playing indoctrinated jams. God damn, I don't know who I am. Why is my will to live so strained? They take my suffering and say all I do is complain. My mother Angela would comfort and visit me, says it was the toxic masculinity in your vicinity. But where does this come from? This ideology must be inspirational. My mother Audrika told me that this trauma was generational. Well, Angela gave me the source of my remorse. Audrika gave me the cause, told me about how our indigenous people faced oppressive laws that weren't formed out of hate, that we didn't receive religious freedom until 1978, that the boarding schools left our identity in such confusion that we were still savages in the eyes of the Declaration and Constitution. So who shot me? Who made the bullet spray? It was a racist government who hung our people like ornaments on display. It was my family members who were raised in a terrible system who never thought they lost their way. It was the preachers who thought we were evil, making us drop our regalia, telling us to pray. Now I'm a product of an unsatisfied customer and a desperate seller, but I choose to be better, to be a being of a light instead of being a being of darkness. That is why I must use my tongue with such sharpness, since colonialism has not forgot me. Foreign powers, you shot me. Assimilationists, you shot me. The mailmen in my life, you shot me. But I take your pains and be abrasive, because my beaded necklace helps me see my other fellow natives in this concrete jungle where I have constantly stumbled. No matter if your culture is lost, you are still indigenous. Whether you have Choctaw, Mixtep, or Ojibwe in your blood, please let your message flood like a wave. Sound the siren as bullets are removed from my body when the sun sets on the horizon. Feeling the love of all the tribes over the states in Turtle Island. My ancestors tell me that you can trust us. So instead of vengeance, I'm now pursuing justice. Thank you. So this next poem, I call it Delusions. And so I actually wrote this today, so you guys are going to be the first one to kind of like hear it performed, so I'm really excited. And it goes something like this, and it goes, what I call a belief is what others call my delusions, like it will take me to ruin, confining me to the back row, when all I want to do is offer my ancestors some tobacco and thank them for guiding me, reminding me to have spaces for love and laughter, but I'm told that I have delusions of grandeur. They say your tribe and loved ones are gone. They carry a legacy settlers and colonists have passed on. You are trying to sell me a reality I have no interest in buying, offering bait that I have no interest in biting, interested in saving me when my salvation was never declining, pulled in different directions with each hand, saying they can save my existence when I never asked for your assistance. You have arguments for my supposed delusions, but I don't want to hear it. I have Angelique in all my spirits. I speak with the medicine men and women who truly specialize. They said the more I connect, the more family I would soon recognize. My life is a movie and the plot moves. It's not that you don't understand, it's that you choose not to. You want to tie me down with a tight latch, but you're pushing so far and now I need to fight back. Like every tribe being pushed outside their borders, and reporters would label that as a success, that a native man can never rest. With the Christian destiny others manifest. What you call expansion, I call invasion. So now I must conduct a private investigation. I tell you my truth, but in your voice I hear fear and hesitation. I may hurt and spiral, but I will never take shots at what a human being sees as vital. I feel my ancestors, yet you call them delusions. They speak to me, yet you call them illusions. They have taught me to live a life more happily, yet you tell me I need to stay grounded in reality. You never let me feel when I write raps. You never let me heal when I relax. You praise me when I speak facts, but then you kick me down the very second that I relapse. Like you want me to be just as miserable. I'm fighting for them as I fight to reach my pinnacle. Miserable people only breed more misery, looking at the way I live and view it as a mystery, when really I just want to live a little more simply. I think it's a skill to have compassion and sympathy. So I need to build my defense from the jabs firstly, but if you want to peel off my scabs early, then I have no choice but to rage and engage in words that I can never take back. Becoming a storm that refuses to settle. I feel vengeful, but my mothers meet me at my level, saying that you feel that way you do because your gifts are special. The frustration you feel is training to be a better leader at another level. Your circle may not see that, but son, we do. The world may have left yourself rejected, but you have always been protected. Through the violence and in fighting, they inspired my writing as I'm surviving in foreign institutions, yet they still tell me that I'm suffering from delusions. Let's see here. Okay. This other piece, I call it the firing squad. And it goes like this. And it goes, I'm walking on stage and I can see the eyes roll. Sentenced to die, but at least remove my blindfold. Shot through the heart and I'm bleeding to the bank. Who's feeling innocent? Who shot the blanks? Who is First Nations and who is the foreigner? He made his journey to the spirit world, says the coroner. A smile on my face, one final race, sunshine leading to Angelique's warm embrace. I ask her how she dealt with pain and anguishes. Tell me how it was speaking 3 different languages. How did you balance being raised Catholic and traditional? Do you know your grandson became a symbol in an era of AR-15s and pistols? Please protect me from the writer's block and lyrical limbo. Through my family matters like a Winslow, slicing a path like Kimbo. Though we're using Dogecoin and crypto, the causes of our ugly trauma stay unhappily wed while reaping their ugly heads to betray us as unhinged. But if you want to get crazy, I can turn the stage into Hacksaw Ridge. Let's be honest, we've been the hottest prophets for the longest before our sufferings were filling a 1%er's pockets. So I arrived for a bachelor's, but it's a bondage and a burden till I'm with the masters. I knew from watching Star Wars I could never trust my chancellors, but I'm taking gambit since I'm the biggest mammal to walk the earth since the woolly mammoth. Now you're petrified. Enough prayers, acknowledge my genocide. Because if you can't acknowledge the peril, then empty your barrels like true aggressors, happily absorbing shots from your Winchesters. I'll make a phone call to Sarah and tell her it's the end of an era. That my stairway to the spirit world isn't a dead end with dead men. It's more like a reward or an upgrade getting paid in ancestral currency. Because currently we're living, breathing documents for the populace. So at the end of the day, look me in my eyes and click, clack away. So I can die in a place I belong where these lines are like vortexes striking cortexes like lightning rods. Funny how constant judgment feels like a firing squad. A life or death kind of game where the rifles are always pointed and aimed. So I say, let him see your chest as a sign of protest. You fear what you can't control or harness. So it's pathetic people make a career out of painting targets. For starters, I remember the martyrs more than the assassin. So my cabin in the woods is only haunted by timelines where I failed my ambitions. And those ghosts manifested as fears that have once risen. I fought plenty because I was mothered by one, but I'm a son to many. They act as my body armor and raincoat because the firing squad is the final destination for a fall guy and a scapegoat. So execute another artist for a non-existent crime. The smoke leaves the barrels on the dime. Now you can view the man of many words, executed at 6:36 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Thank you. So this is also one of my favorite pieces. I call it Gladstone after Lily Gladstone. And for those not familiar, she was a Native American actress that recently won a Golden Globe. And it was for Killers of the Flower Moon. And I really loved that movie. And then, you know, she kind of became my celebrity crush. So I'm like, okay, I got to write a little something dedicated, you know, and towards the cause. So it goes a little something like this. And it goes... To the victor goes the spoils. Go ahead and rewrite my history once you find the oil. Invade me like Osage in Iraqi soil. But cash can never buy what is loyal. Only temporary henchmen mixing blood and profits all about the Benjamins. Once you reach the highest levels belonging to the whitest devils, you'll poison me for playing my part for a couple bands. But even Molly Kyle would understand what it meant when justice was crushed for imposters among us. My highest hopes were hanging on tight ropes within a lines. I guess that's what Johnny meant when he was crossing walking lines. You're killing elders, but now you must deal with all the angry bastards left behind, and those bastards are fighting ass backwards. Symptoms of broken systems written out of local papers, hateful like skinheads, tortured like Pinhead, becoming hell raisers, keeping the truth out of sight, out of light. Here's the bait the machine sent to bite, snapping unsuspecting victims who are unskilled from reaching the red pill. Unfortunately for your white blood cells, they cannot dispel misinformation with impunity. There is no way for the body to look at ignorance and acquire an immunity. For this nation, inoculation won't do the trick. The propaganda is just too thick. So show your support to kill the Indian and bomb them like a Palestinian. Blame the victims and support the hunters, but I'll be one of the runners gathering in record numbers. Slash the thumbs off Bible thumpers for spitting scripture that alters the pictures, making critical questions become hesitant. Make me the savage to appear more benevolent. So in 100 years after your bloody pact, your descendants will sit in class uncomfortable with the facts. I'm not trying to make any individual feel guilty. I just want you to understand the systems that built me, that put me in Salem's lot, draining me before I even became a premeditated thought. Even my life couldn't be exempt. Even when I was planned, I missed the gates of life on the first couple attempts. And at that time, I could have been the earliest flat line before hitting the rodent race and rat line, lost in the concrete jungle of conglomerates that glorify the hustle that is really born out of depression and struggle. And there's nothing sexy about the burnout. I just want the next 7 generations to be at peace when they turn out, to get what they paid for. I am what the ancestors pray for. When preaching really means blood and gore, that is why we follow Atahualpa and toss the Bibles to the floor. Hearing the crowd's uncomfortable silence, I don't want to hear about David when I'm being jumped by 5 Goliaths. With representation and education in prisons and politics, years of war profiteers that'll harm you, messed up by big pharma who've forgotten about the karma, wearing business suits with dollars pinned and adorned. Let me quote John Hollowhorn when he says you'll have to make a choice when riding in your Rolls Royce looking so extravagant. Either be adamant about all life and all inhabitants instead of setting the world on fire with a lighter, or you can die screaming beside her. Your status is worth less than dust, making you less than a tool. I guess having critical thinking skills is the exception and not the rule. So stamp me out if you're a true predator to have the backbone to kill me. Yet I know Mid-Thunder and Lily Gladstone gotta feel me. Living through the backlash but never backtracked. You can ransack, but one way or another I'm gonna get my land back. Thank you. So this is another piece that I really liked, and it's called A Walk Among My Ancestors. And so kind of one of the things like with indigenous identity is like some of us are mixed and some of us are more passing of like more white passing or more African-American kind of passing, but we're mixed. But some people think that limits, you know, your identity kind of thing. And so one of my cousins that come from my tribe, she's lighter skinned and she's gotten like a lot of flack saying, oh, you're white and this and this and that. But I tell her it's like, it doesn't matter, you know, being native is more than just having the blood. It's also like a mindset too and how much you're a part of the culture. And so I kind of wrote this dedicated to her, and I mentioned our ancestors. And it goes, my soul was buried in the east with Angelique, while this version of me was buried on the west side, treating my bed like a coffin, watching the spirits by my bedside. And they said, come take a walk with me. I said, I thought our connection was lost to me. There was no ceremony to celebrate my birth. The cold hospital hardly gave me any self-worth or strength to exert. And though love still surrounded, I was bounded by the rules on the chessboard, stitching closed my vocal cords. But eventually my voice bellowed at different unendable decibels and pitches, ripping my stitches. And though I bled, dripping cells of red, the pain was worth the freedom to be a heathen, slicing a layer off my eyes to really be seeing the seasons of hidden issues that remain vague, hidden by something fancy, yet act like the council of the Chukchansi when they invade, backstabbing you to get paid. And I want a word back. It's sad that a nation will fuck you for per cap, looking for more benefits to be scoring. My ancestors tell me that that type of currency be foreign. When did we become so greedy for scraps that are too small to be consumed by rats? When did we stop being a community? I said, well, you see, we now bleed complacency because our new god has become wealth and what sells. It's like we're fighting a 1,000,000-man army with a a regiment of 12. I'm fighting to clutch a win. They stripping my sister's identity because of her lighter skin. But that doesn't make her any less. It's one of the greatest sins to make somebody second guess who they are, for that's a cage match in which I've had to spar. And I'm still walking through cage doors, for if I tear someone down, then we both remain poor. Locked in a bitter rivalry to get higher on the racial hierarchy. The CASA system is over, but we kept their equipment. Target my community and send them a shipment to assist in their suicides, placing them at 100% fault, never to be exalted, forever halted. I really wish our shared ancestors could physically hug you. I hope you know through the invalidation, Angelique will always love you. If I could only cast a spell, I'd ask her why the Catholics sold their children off to older men when they were 12. I find it sadistic. That was always pedophilic. We existed 300 years apart, but experienced problems in similar forms. The enemy has simply changed uniforms. So as I take a walk among your group, can you look at my pessimism and help me recruit? Can you bless me? Can you remind me what makes my medicine so deadly? I may be fighting, but at times I'm oblivious with the heart of a child, while the self-righteous want to act hard and revoke my card in accusatory style, creating hurt, creating witch hunt, Salem witch trial in the first quarter, yet you pinning yourself into a corner. You failed your heist, so now with fear, I'll treat you like Robespierre and behead you with your own device, splitting you in two. Stoicism is a fancy word for not giving a shit about what our lowlives have to spew. You were never worth a clenched hand. I refuse to be active in kangaroo courts that are shams with these fake-ass prosecutors who could never even pass a bar exam. I went from a ram to an English bulldog covered in smog, but my breath control has been the clearest quality, never faulty. Paranormal numbers calling me from the shadows when we lower the sun. I was looking for a mother as much as you were looking for a son, and it left me stunned that you haven't forgotten about me when achieving your well-deserved glory. Still fighting for me. It's just unfortunate that all of these people are just living in a Toy Story, taking a walk around the wrong people, slandering for sport. Tempers are short while I'm saluting the Eagles all the way to North Fork. Your accusations will never land, so go back to Neverland and grow up. Keep your eyes out for ceremonies and show up. But no matter how much I acknowledge, I will always be held hostage, because I will always be an out-of-state native, or simply state recognized, or splattered on the windshield like an insect. I don't expect the privilege to understand what it's like to have a knee on your neck. All they do is bring the feathers and tar, come up with every reason why I can't teach others the ways of the coldest bars. So I say to hell with that. Your voice puts people to sleep like an ASMR. The doubters have only given me a multitude of powers. The ancestors didn't need a lot of words to make an accurate statement. So how can you say a billion words that have no meaning or placement? The fishes will be your next arrangement with Brazi and Hoffa, but for my grandma and mama, the last 7 generations won't be comatose, and I will always boast about my lineage that is uncontested, never to be bested. The oppressors will never touch you. A walk among my ancestors. Angelique, I will always love you. Whew. All right, and so this one right here, it's called Never Shorten It. And I actually got to perform this when Lee Herrick became the California Poet Laureate, when he was first picked. They did an opening ceremony at Fresno City College, and I wanted to write a poem specifically for that. And what I came up with, I'm really proud of it. And it's one of my favorite pieces. And it goes, I take great stride and pride in my name, so never shorten it. I went from lunch table rap battles to opening for poet laureates. They said my path was inglorious, that I was notorious for being too naive, since I believed I could make something out of the words that were asking me to share my thoughts, but like a complicated birth, I couldn't come out naturally. In order to use the voice and flow with a word of mouth like a C-section, I had to cut it out, so it wouldn't be lifeless lying still, left to rot in landfills, bomb depleted and glassed. Dude, I'm the artist they'll be fearing when the mic is passed, because I don't preach for the sake of being preachy. It's simply something that resonates, that makes me emulate the barrage and montage of setbacks I overcame with pens and the quickest wit. Local tribes handing me the talking stick. Being in a circle where I'm never adjourned with a crowd waiting my turn. On rotation, my final destination, like most speakers, assassination. Since I applaud a different God without a book, lacking false prophets and scribes, I wish I could imagine my brother's reaction to my success if he was even half alive. But that lane's been crossed. It's hard to see beauty when your brain's been washed and post-traumatically scrubbed, roughly translated like an English dub. I can't theorize if we have pride or jealousy with my president past, knowing the little brother surpassed his limitations drastically, with Newton's laws weighing 10 times its normal gravity. Leaving knees weak, I wish that you could have left me that apple to eat. So now I refer to you with mockery. You're a dream like American healthcare, the goal of owning property. But I respect the blue collars of education who witnessed what I could never see in my sight, convincing me that my ideas were bright, convincing me that my journey was right, convincing me to spare your broken life so I wouldn't consume the poisonous elixir that makes man the most sinister, spreading through and through undo the evil that men do. I take great stride and pride in my name, so never shorten it. I started with no conscience, but now I see a veil of knowledge, and I won't stop pouring it. Taking power, taking agency, never again to fall into complacency. With my spoken tools to direct it, I understand that you couldn't see my path when you were only given a single exit. A single reality to raise your child in, and I was wild in with needs unaddressed. You felt the only way for me to survive is to have my unrealistic dreams suppressed. Yet I reveled in battling other styles, and I traveled 1,000 miles to where my talents were a blessing instead of a curse. Maybe I wasn't the worst of the worst, and I call this chapter Burning Passion, where my life would truly start. To hell with numbers, statuses, favoritism, nepotism, ignorance, and sensitivity, percentages ripping apart. What truly matters is the intentions in your heart. That's why I curse with the intention of showing passion and aggression. That's why in these lyrics there's lessons, a meaning in the canvas, a meaning in the arts. The son of Audrika, the son of Angela, the son of a bitch, the son of matriarchs, the strongest moms wishing the arts were funded like dirty bombs so we can give life instead of take it, have gatherings instead of something vacant. My biggest weakness is a lack of patience, because I want to see a change happen overnight and believe it, fearing I won't live long enough to see it, see the cycle and say I won't repeat it. And I hope you take great stride and pride in all of your names, so never shorten it. Love your true self instead of mourning it. Share the kindness instead of hoarding or boarding it up. Why let reality dictate your world when you can simply create your own? Be your liberator instead of the warden. Trek a new path that's new and foreign. Take pride and never shorten, just proportionate. Because I take great stride and pride in my name. So don't you dare ever shorten it. Don't you dare ever shorten it. Don't you dare ever shorten it. All right. And I just, I want to close off with one more. And this is like one of my other favorite ones too. And I wrote this dedicated to my father. My father is a U.S. Marine. You know, he's still around. You know, he lives in Washington State now, so I don't get to see him too frequently. But you know, as I grew up, I realized that adults are not perfect. You know, they make mistakes as well, and it took me a while to understand that. So I wrote this dedicated to him, and it goes: I reflect on my memories as I grow older. I remember how I was raised by a soldier, Beretta 92 in the holster, who was trained to kill and fight, standing 5'4" in height, but his dress blues were vibrant. To me, this man was a giant, making every problem solvable, making every problem seem like a minor obstacle, like a course in boot camp. He pulled his bootstraps, reading his scriptures, reading Corinthians, his deadly accuracy more accurate than Olympians, a natural athlete with his rap sheet in the front, never in the backseat, but gazed upon emotions and decided to mask it, exposed me to death, telling me to look inside the open casket. I just about had it with the cruelest lessons. Let me have expressions. Let my thoughts be my own, because your lights are on, but you are never home. I was never physically fit or had your fancy uniform sense of style. Never as strong, never as agile, could never run a mile in 6 minutes or less. I almost signed those papers, and I consider myself blessed that I stopped trying to be you or be your carbon copy, because that would have cost me. You would have lost me, causing me to say this is the final straw. I used to be in awe, but now I realize, like all human beings, you are a person and you are flawed. That's why I decide to open my life and invite you, because I was raised by a soldier, but I'm not like you. When I hear my kids' frustrations, I will sit and listen. You're a warrior with a rifle, but I'm a warrior with my lyricism. And I stand in assembly, loving my wife like a smooth melody, more than you love my mom with your infidelities. I will readily give my kids the best of me. You were in a program for negative energy. I admire what you overcame, because your brain can be a creative yet a destructive device. I respect and admire your sacrifice, but I've developed a relationship to place. I hope you admire the world that I've been driven to create, to see how powerful I really am on the videos and recording cams, because I'm a rapper, I'm a poet, I'm an MC, I'm a spoken word artist, or whatever title you desire. I hope I can speak my truth while you give me cover and fire. As we move from cover to cover, you could make your rounds, make your numbers, and I'll check my rhyme, because my words are like your rifle. There are many like it, but this one is mine, and I will write with the morals that were instilled in me. Speak clearer than my opponents trying to take my free will from me. I will write, I will honor my ancestors, never suppress like the barrel of a gun attached to a suppressor, because I'm alive and my tribe exists. So if I'm tempted with evil, Creator, give me the strength to resist, because we both suffered the loss of our older brothers in negative depiction, one to mental illness and the other to addiction that fries the wires, eating away like Alzheimer's. We don't speak their names often, because our last feelings were rotten, decomposing rage. You turn to your Bible, but I turn to my sage. But both of us can look upon the past and press replay to remember when the world was a little warm and couldn't get any colder. I'm my own man, but I was raised by a soldier. Thank you guys for having me.